for photographers and for food bloggers, Pinterest is so important. And a lot of people let Pinterest slide, I would say from COVID until probably through last year. And now they're like, okay, I need to get back there. And the people who are getting back there are seeing results.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Pretty Focused podcast. I have a very special guest here today. We've got Megan. You are a podcast host over at Eat Blog Talk, and she also has a food blog called Pip and Ebby. We're going to put all of the links to her information down below in the show notes. But Megan, we're so excited to talk to you today. I was on your podcast a couple of months ago, and it was such a pleasure being able to, speak with you in that capacity. But now to have you back on, on our podcast now is so fun. And today we're going to kind of dive in and talk about some of the ebbs and flows of the blogging world. And maybe some of the industry trends, maybe some of the shifts we've seen happen in the industry. And so that's what we're going to kind of dive in and talk about today. So those of you who are listening, get ready, because there's a lot of good stuff that's going to come your way. But Megan, can we talk about 2024?
Yes, let's talk about 2024. It's done, right?
It's thank God. Yeah. There were a lot of great things that happened in 2024. But it was definitely an interesting year in the blogging world.
It was an interesting year. I feel like it started off really entrenched in fear. So many different things were happening. AI, there was the fear that all of our content would be gulped down by AI. There was just so many changes in our industry. The HCU, oh my goodness, so many people got hit by the Google HCU. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
So we went into the year, I think, feeling very fearful. But I think, in my opinion, it played out a lot better than a lot of us anticipated.
Yeah. I mean, so if you've been around business in any industry, there's ups and downs.
Yeah.
This isn't the first weird thing or updates or whatever that has happened in the food blogging world.
No.
And so it's just that fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
Right? Of what is going to happen, not really fully understanding AI. And, I even have people who are coming to me and they're like, well, or they'll comment on our stuff and they say, people aren't hiring food photographers because they're having AI do it for them. And I'm like, show me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, first of all, if you say those words, then that's probably what's going to happen in your business. I've seen so many times in the past year where people say blanket statements like that, like, oh, the traffic's down or whatever. And then that reflects in their business. But if you can just spin your mindset a little bit and not latch onto that fear, then that is going to be what is reflected in your business. And same thing with the AI photos. No, that is actually not what's happening.
Yeah, no. And it's like, if you saw AI photos on Facebook, because you did, they were there. I see them a lot less now, but they were for sure there. And those are not food bloggers, people.
No.
Those are not real people. They are, maybe a real person on the back end doing weird things. But if you go, I have gone to some of the profiles. First of all, always look at the fingers of the person in the profile. I know she looks nice. She's not real. Okay. Becky's not real, people. Becky's not going to give you good recipes or grandma's recipes. That's not your grandma. Okay.
Yeah.
If you go and you look at the location of the admin, one of them had 10 different locations all over Asia or something. I'm like, that, you guys, please don't be fooled by this. This is not real content. This is not a real food blogger. Don't believe it.
Yeah.
And so I think, somebody who doesn't know is going to see that and be like, oh, food bloggers are hiring or are using AI. And it's like, no, real food bloggers are not.
Yes, correct. The real is the important word there.
Yeah, for sure. But despite, we were talking about these stats beforehand, but despite like these 2024 being like this, like you said, starting off the year with fear and like uncertainty. I was reading Raptive's blog, which is phenomenal. I'm so impressed with Raptive and all of the information that they put out. And I could just go and learn and read through all their articles. And I'm like, yes, I love these people.
Yeah.
But they said, this is just Raptive creators alone. And those of you who don't know what Raptive is, Megan, can you explain what Raptive is for our listeners?
Sure. It's an ad network. So they serve ads on websites. So I know they serve, I don't know the number, but they serve a lot of ads on a lot of food blogs. And their competitor would be Mediavine. So most food bloggers, if you do get into an ad network, it's one of those two companies that you would go to.
Yeah, and Mediavine certainly has great stuff. I love their year by numbers, and they talk about like the ebbs and flows of the advertising income, and so I think those are great. But Raptive put out this blog post recently, and it says that Raptive creators alone, so just those bloggers on Raptive, published 7.9 million articles in 2024. 2024, the year that is, what are we going to do?
Yeah, a lot of articles.
That's a lot of articles. And that was 37% more than the previous year.
Crazy. Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
Unfathomable. I can't even wrap my head around that number.
Yeah. So I think that it's so important to know, like, first, where are you spending your time? Where are you connecting with people? Are you connecting with people who are terrified? And I get that there, like, I know that there was a loss in traffic for people. I'm not saying that there wasn't. There weren't people who were not affected by it, but I think that there was two different mindsets.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be very careful, because if you get in with the wrong crowd, maybe reading a Facebook group that is more focused on fear, for example, then of course that's going to be in your head. And I so strongly believe that what you feed your brain is kind of what comes out in your business. Yeah. So you just have to be so careful about who you're surrounding yourself with.
Yeah, it's true. We did a live, call with our grads or our whole community actually at the end of 2024, and talking about, the success that you see and coming into 2025 is largely in part to who you surround yourself with, and having peers and having advocates and having advisors, and having people at each of those levels who can pour into you, and really setting yourself up for success with peers and advisors. You have to have both of those people speaking into you, and then people who are on the same level as you, who are going to be able to encourage you and help you pick you back up. I know things are hard. I'm not saying life doesn't get hard, but you got to have somebody. I want to be the person I'm going to grab your hand and I'm going to pull you up. And I hope somebody would do that for me too. Yeah. Don't leave me there. Don't leave me in my self-pity, right?
No, what you said is so important, and it gets glossed over because we get so focused on the details of what we're supposed to be doing in our blogging businesses. So you need to be doing this keyword research strategy, and you need to be focusing on Pinterest and blah, blah, blah. And we forget what I think is the most important thing, and that is surrounding yourself with the people that you're talking about. You need to be advised. You need probably a coach or a mastermind group, something that's high quality. And you need those supportive peers. And if you don't have that, oh my gosh, it makes everything so much more difficult, especially now in 2025. It's imperative that you have those things.
Yeah. I'm telling you guys, you cannot do life alone. You can't. You cannot do it alone. And we're like siloed here at home, or like soloed. I don't, you work at home. Like, you develop recipes at home, you photograph at home, you sit and edit photos, like you do all those things, or, whether you're a blogger, photographer, and you're working at home. And so it can feel a little lonely sometimes. And so then whenever you pick up like your phone and you're looking on Facebook and you're seeing all like the negative stuff, it's just you and the negative stuff. Right.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
not
that
good.
can be,
That's not healthy.
no, it's not healthy. And so I think like you talked about mindset, making sure that you have an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset. And I think like, a scarcity mindset says, food blogging is dying. Right?
Yeah.
And like an abundance mindset is people will always need to eat.
Yeah.
Like we in 2020 showed us that whenever everybody was at home, food blogs really took off. They did so well in 2020 because everybody was going to food blogs looking for content. And so now food bloggers in 2025, so that's like 2024, but Megan, talked to us about 2025 and how maybe because 2024 did shift things. It did shift things for food bloggers. There was a shift there. What are some of those shifts that happened that have kind of maybe changed the landscape of blogging?
I think the biggest shift I've noticed is the after effects of the HCU. So you may or may not know that Google did some really, really big updates in 2024, a lot of them. And a few of them really hit food blogger sites very hard. So I know bloggers who their traffic was completely gone overnight. Like some people lost 50, 60, 70, like up to, like 95% of their traffic overnight. So that was devastating. But I noticed this, just this tenacity in food bloggers, like this drive that came out of that instead of being defeated by it. I mean, yes, at first it was probably absolutely devastating.
Yeah.
But then once people picked themselves back up, they were like, wait a second, I have built this business with passion and purpose, and I am going to make this work. So they have explored other avenues to bring in money and to get traffic and to expand their brands. And it has been the coolest thing to watch. I've had a front row seat just watching the amazing things that people are pulling together and the platforms they're expanding on. So many things that I believe would never have happened had the HCU not demolished their traffic to begin with. Yeah.
It's so true. I just saw this clip today and it was like, don't like pray for strength and then begrudge the thing that's giving you and helping you develop that strength.
Love that. Yeah.
And so it's like, oh my gosh, that like such a good reminder for like, I think even my mindset last year was like, just wanting strength, praying for strength and wisdom and like, how you navigate certain things. And then things get hard and you're like, but then you're like, oh, why are things so hard?
Yeah.
But
I don't want this now. Yeah.
yeah, but those very things are the things that are giving you strength and developing, character and perseverance and everything. And so I love that you saw that they like this like tenacity, because here's the thing too, is that what this world, in the food blogging world, right? You've got food bloggers and even like photographers coming in and working for food bloggers. It's not about the blogging and it's not about the food photography. It's about the life that those things have allowed us to live. I mean, I just saw you earlier. It was last year. How many days did you spend at a theme park with your family? 7 days?
In a row?
Was it
Yeah.
over
I
the
mean,
summer?
Oh my gosh, we've spent so many days at a theme park in 2024, but over the summer we did 7 days in a row. You are correct.
And and is that a life that you're gonna just roll over and give up?
No, no, that whew, you're gonna make me teary. Yeah, that is exactly why I have worked my butt off all of these years for that, and not just for the theme park days, but for the time with the people and the
Yeah.
freedom to do that.
Yeah. And so this life that we get to live of
Yeah.
yeah, there's gonna be ups and downs, and there's gonna be seasons to navigate. Welcome to life, like,
Yes.
um, but I'll tell you one thing, this life is worth fighting for.
So true.
It's worth fighting for. And I fight not for just for my family, but I for our community, if and so I just kind of had that resolve this year of this life is worth fighting for, not just for me, but for the people who are going to come behind me.
I love
And
that.
and so
That makes you a
anyway.
good leader, and that makes people no, seriously, I mean, if you have that kind
Mm,
of purpose and certain values that align with that, that makes you appealing as a leader, and people
yeah.
want that. They want that life and that freedom,
Mm,
so I love that.
yeah. Yeah. It's important. So you've seen that shift in food blogs. What are you looking at in 2025? Because you guys, those of you who are just getting to know Megan. Megan, tell us a little bit about your business, and that you're not just a food blogger, you're not just like a podcast host, but you have a mastermind of food
Mhm.
bloggers. So tell us a little bit more about this. So as you guys are hearing from Megan, she's talking to a lot of people in the industry. She is mentoring a lot of food bloggers. So she really brings a really unique perspective. So what are maybe some things that you think are not that you have a magic ball in front of you or anything, but 2025, what do you see? What do you
Yeah.
feel?
Some things I feel so I mentioned that people are branching out into new areas. I think in the past few years, a lot of bloggers have just been focused solely on Google and
Yep.
figuring out keyword research and how do I get that SEO traffic? Because honestly, for a lot of years, there was kind of a formula there where it would work pretty quickly. I don't want to say easily, but much more easily than now. And it just worked for so many people. So now that's not as easy. So getting traffic through Pinterest, which is kind of an old school way of getting traffic, but for photographers and for food bloggers, Pinterest is so important. And a lot of people let Pinterest slide, I would say from COVID until probably through last year. And now they're like, okay, I need to get back there. And the people who are getting back there are seeing results. They are getting traffic that they never thought they could get from Pinterest.
Yeah.
So it is a very, very viable option if you are looking for traffic. So that is
That's
one
awesome.
place. Yeah.
Is the strategy, what is there a strategy to Pinterest?
Yeah, that's been debated a lot in the food space. So I mean there are a few things that seem to be working. Don't mark my words because if it doesn't this isn't probably going to work for everyone. But especially if you have a lot of content, I would say create unique pins. I would say 5 to 10 unique pins per top URL. That's where you start. So take all your top content, create unique pins for each of those URLs, and then pin them to relevant boards first and space them out throughout your other boards. And if you can consistently keep up with that for 3 to 6 months, most likely you're going to see traffic start coming your way. And then
Wow.
specifically about the photography, using different, photos. So like if you take multiple hero images of a single recipe,
Yep.
use different ones for your pins. So even like process shots sometimes work. Some people are experimenting with putting text on versus not having text at all on the pin and just
Okay.
seeing, like, it really does vary per account too. So
Yeah.
you have to do some experimentation. But if you're willing to put in that experimentation work and consistently show up every day for a couple of months, it's most likely that you'll get some traction there.
Yeah, I mean, we have so one thing that's really cool is a lot of our grads are starting food blogs now. And one of them, which just goes to show like food blogging's not going anywhere. I'm like,
Yeah.
how many new food blogs are developed or made every day, every week? Like there's so many. Which is phenomenal. But she started with Pinterest and has grown very quickly from, focusing her traffic, on Pinterest and stuff. So
It is
I think
possible. Yeah.
it's great. Yeah. So diversifying traffic to Pinterest, because Pinterest, what people don't realize, is a search engine.
Mhm. Right.
And
Yeah, a lot of
so,
people call it social media, which is not right. It
no,
is actually a search engine for, like, many people go there instead of Google.
yeah. And so, I mean, you can treat it like a search engine because you can just kind of scroll through some things, but most people are going in search of something.
Correct.
And so do keywords play a role there as well?
Yes. Again, experimentation. So just
Yeah.
go and poke around, see what people are searching for. If you have a bunch of chicken recipes, for example, you can just see what pops up. It has a very intuitive search function,
Mhm.
kind of like Google. So if you type in chicken dinner, you'll see some options like chicken dinner with onions or whatever.
Yeah,
You
right.
can explore that way. But then Pinterest Trends is a really great underutilized tool, I think. So go to Pinterest Trends and poke around there too, depending on what your niche is and what categories you have on your blog. It can be really
Yeah.
helpful as well.
Yeah, and I think for photographers who are developing exclusive content, because we have photographers who photograph recipes for food bloggers. They, whether it's like recreations, they're working on a backlog of content they need updated, or bloggers will purchase new recipes, whatever. So they are developing new recipes. How far out in advance from like these major holidays do you think they need to be getting content out?
On Pinterest specifically?
Yeah, on
Or
Pinterest. Yeah, well, just like to bloggers, like, so bloggers need to have time to get stuff scheduled. They have
yeah.
a publishing schedule, right? So they got to publish it, and then, they have to put it on Pinterest, and it takes a little bit on Pinterest to start generating traffic, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So what kind of time frame? So, let's see, we've got Easter coming up. Those
Mhm.
are always big ones. And then
Yep.
we've got, Mother's Day, there's teachers, and with the end of school, Father's Day, and then like the 4th of July.
Right. Yeah.
So when does a blogger want to have their pins out on Pinterest before the holiday?
Yeah, I think the window on this has shortened over the past
Okay.
year or two. We've talked about this in my groups a lot, where people will put something out thinking, "Oh, I have no hope for this year for, I don't know, St. Patrick's Day or whatever," and then they start getting traffic for it. So I would say don't let whatever window of time is between you and the holiday stop you, because if nothing else, it's going to be screaming for next year.
Yeah,
But I
right.
would
Right.
say, like, the Pinterest experts used to say at least 3 months for Pinterest, have it ready. So we're mid-February right now, so March, April, May, you'd be thinking about Mother's Day. But I would actually say that Easter is safe at this point, and you could
Mhm.
probably gain some traction. It just seems like, yeah, the window is narrowing a little bit. It's not as narrow as on Google. There are things on Google that you can optimize for SEO, and if you do really good keyword research, you can see it within a week,
Oh,
honestly.
wow.
It's Pinterest is not quite there,
Right.
and I don't know that it will ever will be, but I would say 2 months, 2 to 3 months. And if you go too far, then your pin could get lost in the shuffle. So I would aim for that 2 to 3 month mark at this
Yeah.
point.
So which means that photographers really need to be thinking further ahead than food
Sure.
bloggers.
Yeah.
So, to stay ahead of, 3 to 4 months or maybe even 5 months, getting out that type of content. So you got Mother's Day, you got all the summer desserts and 4th of July. And, of course it's a challenge not having fresh berries.
Yeah.
Like
That's
everywhere.
true.
I mean, we're in Arizona and I mean, we don't get the best produce down here.
Yeah. Yes.
So it's always a challenge. It's definitely not very flavorful, but that's why too, a little tip is like Easter, grab all of the Easter candies and throw in your freezer for next year.
That's a great tip.
Get all the red, white, and blue M&Ms coming out. Get all of those as soon as they come out. Like get to Hobby Lobby because Hobby Lobby is getting their stuff out, we know months in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
And
great tip.
like just kind of ways to help stay ahead of the game is making sure you're grabbing that candy or anything else and freezing
Cranberries, fresh cranberries.
Cranberries.
That's the one thing I can never find. And I always think, why didn't I
Yeah.
freeze these last year?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your mastermind that you have for food bloggers?
Yeah. Yes. So it's the most awesome group ever. This is one of my favorite parts of Eat Blog Talk. I love the podcast. The whole business is my baby. I love it so much.
Yeah.
Mastermind groups are where the magic happens because of what you talked about earlier with just that peer-to-peer connection being so imperative. It is magic. And I've had people who apply to come into the groups and they have a call with me to just ask questions. And they're like, I don't get it. Like, why would this work? You're just getting together on Zoom call. They're so skeptical. And I'm like, you kind of just have to trust the process and trust the magic because I promise if you just let it flow, it will happen. But there's so many great things that come out of these groups, lifelong friendships, the learning. We have a Slack channel that we share and we're learning from each other every single day. We'll talk about everything that we're talking about and more, just like, okay, what is relevant? What should I be focusing on this year? How should I shift my goals according to YouTube and Pinterest and Instagram? And there are so many important conversations that are going on. So we do 3 calls a month. And then we bring in a guest expert every month, and the guest experts rotate topics. So it could be photography, it could be SEO focused, it could be Pinterest or mindset. We just had a mindset one in January that was so awesome. So just to kind of give people inspiration throughout the year from not just me, but like people who are legit experts in their areas.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
I love that. So if you are a food blogger listening, you're a new food blogger, we're going to put her information down there so you can kind of check out her mastermind. Are you opening for, how does your mastermind work if somebody's interested in joining?
Yeah.
Is it annual?
We only do openings at the beginning of each year. So I start recruiting like August, September of every year. And that's when I get most of the people in for the following year. So we do have applications that are already in for 2026. So definitely get your name in if you're interested. And we do have different levels too. So we have a mini minds group, which is lesser cost, lesser investment, also fewer calls. And then my community manager, she manages that whole group. And I think we take summers off now. We just changed the schedule around for that group. But then the mastermind group, you have to be in an ad network and considered more of like an advanced food blogger.
Sure.
You have to get on a call with me just so we can make sure it's a good fit. I don't want you to come into the group and be like, okay, this is not good, or vice versa.
Right.
So the mastermind group is more of an investment, both with time and money. But if you are an advanced food blogger, you will get so much out of it.
I love that. That's awesome. And then you do in-persons as well, right?
Yes,
You do like
in-person
little retreats with it.
retreats. Yeah, so I do an in-person retreat for my mastermind members in January, just so we can connect in person versus virtually to kind of kick off the group, because that's so important to meet people in human form and make those human connections
Yes.
in forming the bond throughout the year. I've done it both ways, and definitely the groups where we've done the in-person retreat first, they've bonded much more quickly and they've gotten so much more out of it. So now I just do that every year.
I
And
love
then
that.
I also host retreats for non-mastermind members. So if you're not in the group and you want to attend a retreat, these, I was telling you before our call, these are the most fun things. They're
Yeah.
so valuable in the learning aspect, but the fun and the relationships and the friendships and the food and just being in a house
Yeah.
together with just a few people, there's nothing like an in-person retreat with 8 to 10 people. It is my favorite.
That's awesome. I love it. I love that you have those times and those experiences with people. That is one of my goals for 2025, is to meet with people in person more. Like, we have so many grads and students here in Phoenix, and so we've been getting together every couple of months, and it's just so good to hear people and see people and hug people, and
Yeah.
just know that these are real people, and it's not just online, and you can just connect more and really dig in and get to know people. And I think that, like, again, you can't do life alone, and you can't just do life online either.
So true. Yeah, I think
So
you should. I think you should. I think that would be a great
yeah.
avenue to explore.
Yeah, I think we might have something coming up soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're pretty excited about that. But Megan, do you have any advice for people as we kind of wrap up? How let's go like the photographer route. Because I know we can come up with advice for everybody, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But do you have any insights on how food photographers can stay relevant as there's been a shift in the
Mhm.
food blogging world? Do you see that shift affecting photographers at all? Is there anything they need to do to stay relevant?
So I'll be honest, I haven't done my own food photography for a few years, but from what I see from other people, the way to stay relevant is really just to stay on top of scoping out what you like, what kind of
Mhm.
photography you like. So if that means scrolling on Instagram and just like actually taking a pause when you see
Mhm.
or a photograph or a scene that just really
Wow.
inspires you, and just noting like, okay, why does this inspire me? Is it the color? Is it the props, or the way it's
Yeah.
styled, the composition? Like, just really taking in as much photography as you can. That, I think, is the best way to stay relevant.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other thing I would say about photography is just, and you probably preach this too in your groups, and that is just like, don't let the overwhelm stop you. Just get
Mhm.
started with what you have where you are. If you just
Yep.
have an iPhone, okay, start there. It's okay to start wherever you're at.
Yep.
Um, but I would be curious to hear what you say to that. How do you think photographers stay relevant in this landscape?
Well, I think a big thing is because of um, the shift with the authenticity, not the shift, because, well, I would say, so food blogging started off as like a diary. And then we started shifting more towards writing for expert advice. And I remember that was what, 2017, 2018, really
Mhm.
pushing the keyword research and writing for expert advice, and not just telling stories, but making sure you're using the keywords and breaking down how the recipe is made. And so that was big for so long. And so now to hear, like, with the HCU, they're like, just create helpful content for people. And like you said, there was a formula. There was a
Mhm.
formula that got people to rank so quickly. And that content, though, was specific for search engine. right?
Mhm.
It was written for the search engine. And so with the HCU, my interpretation is that now Google is kind of wanting people to go back to that more authentic approach. And I am starting to see even some big bloggers just kind of write more authentically in their blog posts to make those like little connections with people. And so I think that they're kind of having a comeback, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, to just be more authentic with people and create content for search engines. Yes, you got to have some strategy. And so that I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but also making content that your audience is going to love. And that means getting to know your audience. And so I think where this really comes into play for food photographers is to be authentic themselves and to really lean into their unique style. And, for the longest time, it was like white marble styling boards, white marble, white marble,
Yeah.
white marble, and I am seeing more food bloggers being like, I don't want that. I want something that's more colorful. I want something that's a little bit more unique. And that is phenomenal, because that means photographers who love color and hate marble can really step in and lean into that color, and they're going to find a client that they want. And I think that's this kind of shift that we're seeing with photographers and how they can stay relevant, is that as there is like a rise in authenticity with food bloggers themselves, I think it gives way for photographers to be themselves and to create the recipes that they love, and to lean into the style that they like a little bit more, and that they will find a food blogger who matches that. Because that's like, you don't want to do food, like you don't want to do recipes that you hate, because that's what the search engine wants. Like, that's not a job that you love.
Yeah.
Right. Or you don't want to do like everything on a whiteboard because that's what Google likes. Like, you want, like, that's not fun for people. And so I think that to stay relevant, really leaning into your own personal style, I think is really going to be key.
And that's refreshing for a lot of people, because for so long it was like, here's what the industry standard is. You have to do this if you want to be relevant with your photography. And now it's not like that anymore with photography and writing and styles, even on social media. And I feel like that is such a load off, a mental load, just like, oh, thank God I can actually do what I want and be myself. So cool.
I know. How sad though, Megan, that we feel like we have to have permission to be ourselves.
I know. I know. Yeah.
So I think that's the shift that I'm seeing as like, it makes sense that as food bloggers are and being more authentic and making those personal connections, it only makes sense that food photographers who work with them would follow suit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Megan, so much for this conversation. It was phenomenal. I mean, we talked about so much. We talked about 2024, shifts in the market for 2025 and how to continue to stay relevant. I think it was such a great conversation. And so thank you so much for being here, you guys. If you want to learn more about the Eat Blog Talk podcast and Pip and Ebby and Megan's Mastermind, we got all of her information, like I said, down below in the show notes. But we will see you guys later for the next episode.